Good morning, everyone. I hope you are all well and keeping okay during these difficult times. My name is Paul Gabriel, and I am the Geoscience Data and Software Services Manager here at Segal UK. Today's webinar, which I'm going to be running through with you guys, is entitled Spring Cleaning, a Great Time to Clean Your Petrel Projects with Blueback Project Tracker. So, just to recap, this is the second round of us running these webinars. We ran a first round over the last 6 weeks, and due to popular demand, they're back. So thank you for signing up to this one. We've got one every Wednesday for the next 6 weeks. They're at the same time. Please do tell us what you'd like to see. We can add more of them if you'd like. Contact your Segal account manager or email sales@segal.com to let us know what other things you'd like to see. The way these sessions work is each session lasts around 20 to 30 minutes. We're going to be recording it. It is recording now. And you'll get a copy of this recording via email 24 hours after the webinar ends. We're going to upload the video to the Segal YouTube channel. And if we've got time at the end, we'll have a bit of a Q&A session. You can write your questions in the chat window. If we don't have time to answer all the questions, we will have them submitted over email. We capture that through GoToWebinar, and we will get back to you via email. So what is today's situation? What is the summary? What's the story? So we have a corporate Petrel environment, lots of Petrel projects on it, and we'd like to reduce the number of these Petrel projects on our main Windows file system. So what we're going to try and do is try and identify which projects to remove, and we're going to look at a few main things on how to do that. So we're looking for projects that are old, that haven't been used in a long time, really straightforward stuff. We're then going to break into the metadata that we capture, and we're going to find out, we're going to find projects that have a history that comes from an asset divestment. So we have projects on the system that we shouldn't have, whether it's from a particular vendor or we're storing projects that we don't have the vendor data license for. And then finally, we're going to do some intense advanced analysis on duplicate projects. And the way that we're going to do it is we're going to do it on the contents of those projects. And we're going to identify projects which are content duplicated and content similar. And I'll show you how that works. Once we've identified these projects, we're going to tag them with a stamp, a project tag. Once we've tagged all of them, we're going to go through a process of using some of the other tools inside Tracker to upgrade and then to move these projects. So I'm going to run you through very quickly, just as an overview, what is Project Tracker. We're then going to do this detailed analysis of the project and data history in Tracker Web and Power BI. So we're going to start first with a little bit of an overview in the project views in Tracker Web, advanced history analysis in Power BI, look at this duplicate analysis in Power BI, and finally the upgrade and move modules in Tracker Admin. So
Paul, just an interruption. You're in presenter mode on the screen share.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
So I'm on the wrong screen. That's better. Thank you, John. So let's keep going. So what is Project Tracker? It is a Petrel tool to track and monitor a Petrel network. The way it works is we have an application server typically, which goes out and finds Petrel projects. It then opens those Petrel projects, ingests the metadata, and pushes it into a central SQL database. Once that data is inside the database, we're then able to analyze it. The methods for doing that analysis and deriving insight are the Tracker website, which I'm about to show you. You can do analysis spatially in your GIS applications, and you can take the data out from the SQL database and put it into a BI tool. In our case today, we're going to do it in Power BI. By doing the scanning, the monitoring, running this regularly, the insights we derive can be used to implement data management policies and procedures. And doing this over time allows us to monitor and manage this Petrel environment in a efficient, effective manner. So I'm going to jump in first to looking at Tracker Web. So let's jump out of this so you guys are seeing the screen. So Tracker Web. Tracker Web would be hosted on a web server internally inside your organization. You'd use a URL to view it. What we have here is some high-level metrics on the front dashboard page. We see the different Petrel versions, key measurements over time, so you can monitor your Petrel environment over time, and some history information. What we're going to do is we're going to delve in specifically looking at project history information, because what we want to do is identify these old projects first of all, just a really simple example of what you can do. So what we have here is a simple overview of the history of some projects. Last modified date, this is an internal Petrel timestamp. Last modified by is the internal Petrel timestamp, name stamp. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a column. I'm going to look at Petrel version. And I'm interested in this case because we've got lots of projects in this example database. I'm going to be interested in projects that contain 2014. I'm then going to try and see stuff that's old, things that hasn't been modified in a long time. So what we do, we have a filter, is before or equal to. Let's go back a few years. So let's go down 2015. So relatively straightforward stuff. And the idea here is that we've got some projects that are in version Petrel 2014, last modified. They haven't been modified in many years. So the workflow here that you could employ to get stuff off, what we're going to do is we're going to stamp some of these with a tag that we use later on in the project upgrade and project move functions. So all we do is we select the projects, we click this tag button here, and I'm going to apply a tag, upgrade, move, archive. Click OK. Tag gets applied. We can see that tag by bringing the tag column in, and you can see these projects have been tagged. So the idea here is this is a very simplistic workflow, but once I move on to the Tracker admin at the end, you'll see how this could be a workflow that you could use in your own Petrel environment. So that's step one. That's one way of being able to find old projects. But what we want to do, we want to delve a bit deeper. One of the things that Project Tracker scans as it performs the opening of a Petrel project and ingesting this metadata into the SQL database is we capture some high-level information about the project, but we also capture history information. The history information is taken from the Petrel project itself, and what we can do here is we can see the exact story behind this project. So who created it, when it was saved, copied, upgraded, any description and action that took place on this project. But what we want to do, what happens if we want to delve into analyzing the Petrel history information for all of the Petrel projects at the same time? And in this example, particularly, what we're looking for is we're going to look for a particular user based on a domain, so based on a company that we know we shouldn't have the data for. So somewhere in that Petrel project, somewhere in one of my Petrel projects, somebody has done something to it from a company, and we shouldn't have that data on the system. So you can apply this kind of methodology for other scenarios, but the base level idea here is what the take-home message is about. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to take this history information and we're going to put it in Power BI. So let me just bring my Power BI window over. So what we have here is a relatively straightforward interface. All I've done is brought in the tables and views that you have with Project Tracker from the SQL database, and I've just put it into this Power BI dashboard. What we have here in the top, we have some project history information. So this is looking now at all of the project history from all of the Petrel projects in one tabular interface. And we're going to be slicing this information to find a particular oil company domain. And I'll show you what that looks like. I've also done some spatial work here just to make it look a bit fancier. What we've got is we've got the project midpoint location. So we just average where the data is and create a midpoint. And we've colored it by Petrel version, just to give us an overview of exactly where our Petrel projects are. But what I'm going to be doing now is I'm looking for a particular user. And so in my case, I know that the domain I'm interested in has the word oil in it. So I'll use my slicer to cut the data, and I can see that I have 2 different domains, 2 different companies, and a few different users. In my example, I'm after this company here, Acme Oil, Bugs Bunny. So what I'm going to do, toggle the slicer on, and what we've done now, through that project history table of information that we've got, we've sliced it to just show me where this particular user has done something to some of the projects that I have on my system. What we have now, we can see the 2 project IDs in the bottom left-hand corner. We can see which projects they relate to. So this particular user that I'm interested in has touched 2 projects inside my database. And what we're going to do, we're interested in removing that project. So I'm going to tag that project like I did with the old projects, and we will move it, upgrade it, and move it off the system. So I can actually click this. It's a URL that takes me straight to the project information. And what I just wanted to show you here is just a kind of a bit more clarity, I guess, on the history, how it's working. Here we can see that the person that last modified this project was a Segal user. The person that owns the .pet file is a Segal user. If we break down the history, we can see that it was Bugs Bunny that created the project and saved it at a different time to the Segal user. So obviously this is a novel example, but you can begin to understand what we're able to do here. We're able to break down this history information and pick out specific actions, descriptions, or users in a quite proficient manner. So what we're going to do, we know that the Power BI interface showed us that it's project ID 2 that we're interested in. So I go into my projects table, I have my project IDs, and all I'm going to do is tag project ID 2 with my archive, upgrade, and move tag. And you can see that it's applied here. A tag is simply just a stamp on that project. It allows us to filter it in a more proficient manner. So that's the second way that we can do this type of analysis. The other thing that I mentioned that we can do is we can break into the history of individual data objects. I'll show you what that means. So here we have a table showing us some well data. So I have my well, it's called B2 from this particular Petrel project. If I click this icon here, we can now see the history of that well object. We're capturing that as part of our scanning process. So what we're going to do now, in the same way that we were able to break into the history information, in Power BI, we're going to take this data history information and find a particular user who, in our novel example, comes from a data vendor, and we know that we're not supposed to have any of this data that comes from this data vendor. So let's have a look and see how that would work. Back to Power BI. So what we have here, on the right-hand side, we have a map overview of our wells that we are capturing inside our tracker environment, and we're coloring them by the tags that we're stamping. So these are just tags that I've stamped previously. In my case, it actually refers to the different kind of folders inside my project environment. What we're really interested in is this data action history table here on the left-hand side. So what this is showing us now is we have a well, we have a UE in this case, the user, the action, and some description information on exactly what happened to this well. So what we're going to do a similar thing to what we did last time. We're going to slice this information and filter based on a particular user in this case. But you could, in theory, do the same thing for action or description. If you know, for example, that a particular path for the data or machine was in use, you could filter against that. So in my case, the organization that we're interested in is called Superwell. So that's my novel example. And in my case, the user is Data Jimmy. So I toggle on and I slice the data. Straight away on the right-hand side here, we can see that my spatial view has been filtered to show me the wells that is coming from, in this case, for example, this vendor that I shouldn't have. And you can see in the table here at the top that this information, that this particular user imported different data sets, different wells, and he imported them into just one project, this project here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing as we did before. We're going to go to this project and stamp it. So I can click this, I can go to the project information, see all this stuff, but actually I'm just going to go and stamp the project. So to do that, I'm just going to filter to that project ID that you saw, grab it, add a tag, click OK, tag gets applied, and we will come back to that project a bit later. So those, just a quick recap. So we did all projects in the project table. We've looked at project history. Breaking into that, we've looked at data history, and the final way, one method of identifying things that you might want to get off your system is one of the things that I think is most powerful we can do. And what we're able to do with Project Tracker out of the box is we're able to look at the copy project relationship between Petrel projects. So what you're seeing here is a network graph showing the copy project relationships of all the projects on this example system. So just so you know, the green is referring, they're reference projects, whereas the darker blue is the original source project. And what's happening here, so we go here, we have a Petrel project and a copy of that project was made. So either a save as or a Windows copy. And what you're able to do here is you're able to look at the data that is the same or different between these projects. And that's great. It allows you to say with some confidence that you're able to get rid of the older project. But what happens if you want to do that type of analysis across all of your projects and you want to do that in a performant manner? And we can do that type of thing with a bit more analysis, and we do that in this case in Power BI. So what we have here is we have run a custom SQL query And what that query is doing, it is going into the data tables that we capture as part of our tracker scanning. And it's ingesting all the information, and it's basically looking at the project relationships based on the contents of the data between those projects. And where the content of those projects are identical, we're returning that here. And you can see that as this column here, this percent common data. So what we're saying here, any project with a 1 is a content duplicate, meaning this project here with project ID 21 stored in this location has exactly the same information within it, the same data as this project here, project 22. The rest of the Power BI dashboard here, just some more analysis, but one of the things that we can do, we can see that there is lots of projects that have similar data objects, but not 100% identical. In our case, what we're really interested in is just those that are exactly the same. So we can use the slider and just filter on the things that are exactly the same. And we can see here in the bottom right-hand corner that most of this stuff is pretty old, hasn't been modified in a long time. I can, if I want to, also view this information spatially. So I can, for example, on a map now, see the relationship between these duplicate projects, how old they are, so the darker the color, the older the project, and where they reside spatially. So I could, if I wanted to, use this interface to tell me that I'm interested in these particular projects. They're dark red, so they are older, and I can now see those in the table above. So in this case, in this example, this project here is content duplicated with this project here. So in this case, I can click the project, it's project ID 365. This is the project. I have some information about it. And again, I do the same thing as before. There is no need to keep this project if it's exactly the same as the other one. And so I will stamp it with a tag. Filter, grab the project, stamp it, click OK. Happy days. So now I've stamped a couple of projects that I've identified as being really old, on old versions, having data that we shouldn't have, having 100% duplication. So it's a project that we're storing for no reason. We don't need to store an identical duplicate. So I just wanted to now jump into a few modules inside the Tracker administrative console called Tracker Admin that has a few functions which are quite useful to show you, which could be used in this workflow. So we've gone through and identified the information, and what we have here, this is the administrative console. So there's lots of configuration parameters here, but there is also here in the left-hand side, different modules which we can use for different functions. They provide additional functionality to help you as a Petrel data manager with some of the workflows that you guys do. The one I'm interested in to start with is Project Upgrade, and then I'm going to jump into Project Move. So Project Upgrade, we've tagged the projects that we want to upgrade and move and archive. So we can filter by project tag. Just need to refresh the view. And we go contains the word upgrade. So these are the projects that I tagged through those processes that I did. The way that the upgrade function works is you take your Petrel projects, you run a validation check. The validation check goes out to disk, sees whether the projects are still valid. There isn't a lock file associated with them, for example. And it checks that this machine is able to write to that location. based on the version of Petrel that this configuration is running. And in my case, it's Petrel 2018 here. The upgrade program will go once I click upgrade, it will go forth, open Petrel 2018 and upgrade these projects to Petrel 2018. It also records that action in a tracker action history table, so you have some metadata around that. And you can do that in bulk. In my case, wouldn't take very long for a few projects, but you can see how you can run this workflow to allow you to upgrade many projects in a more automated, effective manner. Once those projects have been upgraded, what we want to do is we want to move those off the system. That's ultimately the aim. In your scenario, you'd be maybe potentially archiving it off the network to a different medium, and we can do that here with the project move command. Just need to refresh it again. This is a list of all the projects in my database. I'm going to filter just to the ones that I've tagged. So I filter my tag to upgrade. These are my projects. What we do with the move, we run a check to see again whether the projects are valid. Do they still exist? Do I have access to read them? And you can see that 2 of the projects have a log file. So before you could keep going with this process, you would have to get rid of those log files. You then grab the projects, browse a location that you'd like to move them to. So in my case, I have an archive folder on my D drive. Add these projects as a job using this function. We would then validate these jobs. Again, it's doing a check to see if I can read and I can write to that location. And if I was to go ahead and run this, the way that the system would work is the project move would take a copy of this project, write it to the new location, check that the copy was 100% accurate, and then it would remove the original. It would then update the tracker database for 2 things. One, it would update the location of that project so that the next time tracker scans, it doesn't have to rescan it to pick it up. It's automatically known that it's moved. And secondly, we keep some additional metadata inside the action history table of tracker, referencing the fact that we use this move function to move it from the old location to the new location. So we keep that history inside the tracker database. So let's go back to my PowerPoint on the right screen or the wrong screen. The wrong screen. So thank you very much for watching. That was a whirlwind tour of some more advanced functions that you can do with identifying data that you potentially might want to get rid of on your tracker and Petrel environment. We'd love your feedback. Let us know what more you'd like to see. As I mentioned, we've got more of these coming up for the next 6 weeks. If you have any support queries, questions, please email support.geo@segal.com. And next Wednesday's webinar is rocks can be modeled, how to create a rocks physics model in Blueback Rocks QI. We have 1 minute for questions. So if we can't get through all the questions now, please do message us and we'll get back to you over email. So thank you very much. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much. Look after yourselves, and please do get in touch if you'd like any more information on what you saw today or on anything Sagan related. We will send you this video after it's been uploaded tomorrow. So thank you very much. Have a good day. Thanks. Bye.